good? Okay. So I'm Matt. I'm the Executive Director of the Linux Professional Institute. Sorry for using that word here. But we have done something over the last year which hopefully would be appreciated by the BSD community. And namely, well, let's just skip to this, which is an introduction to us first. We're a nonprofit organization. We're founded in 1999 in Canada, although we do a series of credentials around Linux and open source. Historically, it was Linux focused, but over the last few years, we started tackling just general open source topics, like the tools that are used in DevOps. We're even working on a managerial or executive one called BOSS, which is the business of open source, which is more for the people that are selling or trying to encourage other people to use it in a commercial setting. And it'll cover topics like licensing and IP and things like that. Over the last 20 years, we've certified almost 200,000 people. 25% of them actually hold more than one credential from us. It is a globally recognized standard. A lot of companies, large companies, actually look for it when they're hiring. And a lot of people in, not so much in the English-speaking countries, but other countries, really appreciate this credential because it helps them get jobs in other countries. If you're certified by us, it's the same certification no matter where you are. And it's not the sole hiring criteria. Never do that, but it definitely does help let you know that these people are taking their profession seriously. And we also are doing some education programs around it as well. But our mission really is to promote the use of open source everywhere. We focus on the professional setting, but we do work with some other organizations that are trying to help end users as well. And, well, BSD operating systems are open source or free software, whichever term you prefer. Well, you give them a side look. Yeah. So without much ado, some of you may be familiar with the BSD certification group. They've been doing a credential program for BSD almost as long as we have. And I guess 2 years ago, they merged in with us. And we've taken the last year and a half to relaunch their credential. We mapped it a little bit more to our levels. Our first level is the system administration level, know your system. And then our next levels go into network infrastructure and then even the third level, which goes deep dives into things like Samba or security. We do a serious job of it. We use psychometricians, if you know what that term means. We do a lot of QA on the items. We make sure these exams are fair and a good indicator that this person won't mess up your systems. I do have a number of slides after this part that actually describes the certification, the contents of it, and the objectives that we have. If we have some time, we could go into that if you're interested. But I have a feeling most of you guys are already using BSD. You're not the target for this certification. This is an entry-level credential. It's meant for people that have never used BSD, want to establish some credibility somehow, and that's really the target for it. If it works out, we're more than happy to expand that into additional levels, additional topics. We're just sort of waiting to see how it unfolds. And in fact, we have been getting a number of training companies that have approached to us specifically because of the BSD. All right. The focus is on the technical skills. Well, it says any major BSD system, but really it's, if you look at the next slide, because I included a couple of pictures or images just so, break it up a little. It's aimed towards someone that has, equivalent of a year or more of experience, whether they get that through education, some hands-on, or just brute force it like a lot of us do. If you have that much experience and you like reading man pages, then you should do fine. these are the three variants, what do you guys call them? Not distros of BSD that we cover in the credential, with a lot of focus on FreeBSD because as you can see here, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are one of the more popular platforms for BSD users. And this one just looks nice, so I kept that from the slides that I stole from somebody. Yeah, well, I think the China thing has a lot to do with Deb's Goodwill Ambassador trip a couple of years ago. They were actually way more interested in talking. I was there at the time. They invited both our organizations, and they were way more interested in talking to you.
Oh, you're talking about Kofu?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that a percentage or a number of searches? That column there?
I have no idea. I didn't make the slide, but it's numbers. Like, look at that. Number one, 100, 44, right? After the presentation, I'll if anyone wants to know why China is really interested in BSD and don't know already, once the camera's off, I'll tell you what they told us. I don't know if you remember. It was during the simultaneous translations when the, yeah. Yeah, no, they had some very strong opinions on the matter, actually, and they really do like BSD a lot there. So I'm not actually surprised that this got the bluest color. So anyway, where are we today? And guys, I only have 15 minutes, and I was hoping to talk to you more, so that's why I'm speeding through these really quickly. We've relaunched that credential from the BSD certification group. We are creating some learning materials which will be freely available. If you check out learning.lpi.org or keep an eye on it, that's where they'll be made available. We are encouraging all of our training partners to add this to their curriculum. We even have grant programs and stuff that they can apply for if they think they can't afford to do something as silly as that. And we also have a BSD advisory committee. Has its own budget. It's autonomous. They can basically request anything they want from us, and we're happy to help out. And if any of you guys would like to join, you're welcome to. You don't have to be certified. You just have to know what you're talking about. Oh, did you put your hand down? Oh, no, I jumped.
No, you said no, we're not talking about myself.
Yeah. We're also doing some content marketing pieces, so some blogs and articles, and we'll be peppering them around various sites to help attract interest, not solely in the credential, but definitely in the education program, attract some more users, and as well, if anyone's interested in helping with that, we do grease the wheel a little bit. We don't, volunteers are great, but we found that sometimes you can't really hold people to timelines if, you're relying on altruism. So there are another number of opportunities to work with LPI, both volunteer and paid. And we'd definitely like to talk to anyone that's interested in helping out. The other thing is we're just in the middle of a transition for what qualifies as a member for our organization. When LPI started out, there were no certification holders, so the founders were the members, and they sort of self-selected a board. Guys like B-Dale, if you know him, of course, most of you do. Mad Dog, there's some of the guys that are on the board right now. But that's changing, and sometime early this year, it's the certification holders that will be eligible for membership. They still have some obligations like code of conduct and continuing education and other professional development things, but basically this is the year that we hand over governance of the organization to the people that we've been certifying for the last 10 years, or 20 years. So that's pretty much it. I do have some more slides with details and everything, but it's that question at the bottom. This is what we came up with, with the help of the folk from the BSD certification group. But what else could we be doing?
It'd be
Well, actually, we didn't.
I'll just repeat the question.
Yeah.
Hi. So I was just saying it'd be interesting if people that were doing a Linux certification had to do a minimal amount of work on a BSD system to get their system administration Linux cert.
Ah, I see. Maybe you should join the advisory committee. Ah. That's possible. In fact, there is a lot of overlap with things, you know, like we stole OpenSSH and OpenSSL from various people, and so it's not like Linux hasn't absorbed, you know, features from BSD. So you know, it's possible. That's something that would probably turn into a bike shutting up adventure, but it's definitely something like there's nothing off the table at this point. I mean, I know some people think it's BSD versus Linux, but in my mind, it's us versus proprietary. So, you know, whatever it takes to get people using more open source. We're even developing education programs for, you know, younger and younger audiences. You know, trying to get them down into the K-12 and things like that. So I should come and get your card then, right? Oh, yeah, no problem. Like I said, that was the end of my presentation. I do have details if you want to see how we develop them and everything. But like I said, that's usually where people start wandering out of the room. And honestly, I mean, I already had a career. I got certified by LPI, I guess, 2 or 3 years after they started, just because they wanted more people to take the betas. I didn't need to get certified. But for people that are just getting started, and even, you know, a lot of universities are finding that just a degree isn't enough to prepare them, you know, throw them into the workforce. A lot of industries